Today we're heading into Blackpool. Wait, no, not there. The Blackpool. Both places seem to be equally dangerous, to be fair though. Although, in the Blackpool, I doubt anyone is asking if they have a license for that boulder. Back to the game. With incredible art, fluid movement, and so much variety, I think the most shocking part of this game is the fact that it's been developed by only 2 people. But I should probably introduce myself. If this is your first time here, hello! I'm Hannah, or AngrilyUwUs. I like to make video essays about random games that live rent-free in my brain. Now let's talk about the Blackpool. But before we get into everything, I just want to give myself a nice little shout out. Hey, future Hannah stepping in here just to say a massive thank you to Grim and the Rodent Elf for purchasing some microphone and other upgrades for the channel. It means so much. If you would like to show this kind of support as well, please consider purchasing something from my wish list. Link in description. Oh, and another tangent before we go back to the video. No VTuber model today because the last time I recorded this, I broke everything. So, cope. So, the story, according to Steam. In a forest outside of town, 4 friends discover a mysterious black pool that transports them to an unknown world to fight their way home. They must unlock and master supernatural abilities. Presumably, the menu screen shows us this strange pool in the middle of a forest. I would ask why any of them would, you know, maybe take a dip in this water, but kids do things like that, so it makes sense to me. After all, when my mum was a kid, there were like local kids and stuff that used to go swimming in a river that literally would bleach their skin and stuff. They had to fill it in because people are stupid and kids are stupider. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. You play as one of 4 children, but the outcome is the same no matter what, so I guess it's just a nice little option of customization. Either way, you fight your way into this unknown planet, getting past boss after boss, gaining more and new powerful abilities. This segues nicely into the core game loop. If you're unaware of the roguelike genre, according to Wikipedia, it's traditionally characterized by a dungeon crawl through procedurally generated levels, and permanent death of the player character. Or as I would put it, you run around a bunch of levels trying to complete the game, and once you die, time to restart and maybe cry depending on how far you got. I cried a lot playing this game, and no, I don't want to talk about it. So anyways, we're going to talk about it. Within this game, your weapons, or more accurately, abilities, are randomized every run. So the game loop is fairly simple. You load into the Blackpool, choose 2 abilities, maybe add a buff to your run if you have anything you can use to make it a little bit more spicy, or, you know, easier on yourself since you can give yourself a bit more health. And then it's time to shut down some enemies, grab some upgrades, or maybe some more abilities, with enemies slowly getting harder and the bosses being introduced. You can also decide to go for some health regen instead of an ability, but it's up to you depending on not how much you tend to get smacked in the face by, you know, everything. From here, you unalive and repeat these steps until you complete the game. There's such a variety within this game as well. The ability categories include fire, ice, earth, lightning, radiation, and even void. From here, you then have a quick attack, heavy attack, area attack, dash ability, jump ability, and then your ultimate ability. Each of these depend on which category you choose. So for example, when upgrading the jump with ice, you will gain a platform, which you can actually use to, you know, just climb until you hit the skybox, or until you get bored because it's taking too long to get all the way up there. Whereas the same ability upgraded with radiation gives you the ability to commit war crimes and fart into the sky with a double jump. You know, the duality of man, if you will. In this run, I gained the lightning upgrade and dash ability, which really highlighted something to me. If you've ever played the Infamous series, maybe you've noticed it already, but the fart movement almost felt like Delsin's smoke, and the lightning really felt like a short burst of Fetch's neon power. I mention this because after recently replaying some of the Infamous series again, the movement within that series and the Black Pool is very fluid, and it's just so well designed. It really helps with the overall player experience, in my opinion. In one of my first runs, I used the Lightning Quick Attack, which in essence creates a beam of a certain amount of time that just deals a lot of damage. And to be quite honest, it was easily one of my favourite powers. I was also at some point able to use Flux to upgrade this, which would actually allow me to do a little bit less damage overall. However, every, I think it was 2 or 3 seconds, lightning would just straight up strike the enemies, dealing a solid 200-300 damage. It was really cool. It looked fabulous, honestly, especially on Obsidian, because everything was just purple. Oh, so good. Oh, Obsidian, my favorite place, but we'll be talking about that in a minute. The Light Quick Attack is easily my second favorite ability. It's a sniper shot. It packs a massive punch and has this crazy range. It felt amazing to just quickly snipe enemies from across the map. But I'll talk a little more about this later. In the meantime, let's talk about the multiplayer. So when you perish in this game normally, you get an extra shot. However, when you can indoctrinate one of your mates to join you, well, now it's on them to res you. And speaking of, I really had to pull out my Mercy main. How dare my friend expire in front of my very eyes? After I used him as meat shield for a solid 5 minutes. Sorry, Crikey. Love you, bud. The game does scale based on how many players are in the world. This included the amount of enemies and how much health the enemies had, which I did actually like because it meant that we had to genuinely work together in order to target certain enemies to take them down first. And then there's the handful that were always one shot, and I like those ones, apart from, you know, they're able to one shot you back. It's not fun. Going back to the worlds, told you we'd talk about it later. There are 8 random worlds in total. Obsidian, Maroon Fields, Icelands, Shattered Crater, Skylands, Molten Pillars, Jagged Peaks, Gloom. Each of these worlds have their own unique style and boss attached. I think my favourite aesthetic is Gloom. It looks like the average day in London, you know, with all the smog. Not to mention, the boss in this world, oh, it has some beautiful attacks. Like, just look at this. Honestly, like, oh, like, yeah, it's gonna damage you, but just look at how pretty it is. Honestly, the VFX in this game, oh, so good. They're so good. I don't even know if I actually mentioned them in my script, but like, seriously, if I didn't, I'm gonna talk about them now real quick without looking at my script, so it's fine. Ha 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 ha. Have fun editing this, me. So I just gotta say, the player like dissolving every level, oh, so pretty. It looks so cool. It's all pixelated. Like, oh, chef kiss moment, you know? But then on top of that, so when you actually charge up your abilities and stuff, like Crikey and I, we were looking at this, and oh my gosh, it's so pretty. Because, oh, so good. And then like the dash ability, like when you fart into the sky, or when you lightning around and stuff. I don't really know the proper word to use. You know what I mean? Like, it's so pretty, honestly. Like, it's just gorgeous. The VFX in this game are so brilliant. I love how the shield looks on the enemies. I can't hit them, but it looks so good. It's fantastic. Not to mention then, like, just how all of the abilities look in general. Like, I chose lightning originally because it's purple, and purple is my favorite color, and just, oh, so pretty. But, like, how the lightning actually looks is incredible. The fire looks amazing. The ice, oh, so cool. I love it. Just the little freezy chill sort of, like, foggy stuffs, you know what I mean? Oh, so good. And then, like, obviously, you know, the light does its whole thing. But then the radiation, oh, it's glowing, it's green, oh, it's radioactive, it's Imagine Dragon these nuts. Like, oh, so good. Developers, I actually do say a little bit of a thing at the end, but I just have to say, seriously, you guys have done an amazing job here. Like, you have done, and your game looks fucking incredible. Like, just straight up, it does look fucking incredible. I'm gonna have to censor this a little bit. But oh my god, so good. Anyways, back to my script. So, going back to the bosses, generally you need to damage the armor, which will just fall off, revealing a new weak point. This will just continue until the boss overall is just vulnerable, and then it's just time to smack them over and over again, dodge everything, and pray that you live. Another boss on Obsidian is probably one of my favourites to fight. You make your way up a mountain whilst damaging this thing. What's with the antenna, by the way? However, this is not a constant attack on the boss, so you're only able to take the boss down to a certain amount of health before it will fully shield itself from you, forcing you to delete any enemies that are in the area and continue to follow it up this hill. Also, Obsidian is just pretty. I've said it earlier off script, but still I'm saying it again. I don't care. I chose the lightning ability first because it's purple, and now there's a whole stormy world of purple. I love it here. It's so pretty. Once you complete 4 worlds, you'll make your way to Magnus. Magnus only has 2 levels, but if it had more, I think, honestly, I would have cried. It took Crikey and I so long to get past it. Magnus, in short, is just bullet hell. Oh, and a little bit of platforming. So, if you can call it that. It's more, watch as the platform moves and hope that you can get to it in time. And if not, oh well. Oh, and when you are actually on the platform, just hope that one of the enemies doesn't throw you off. Yeah, I'm not speaking from experience or anything. Ripperoni pepperoni. Finally, after defeating Magnus, you will make your way home. Back in the forest. Not to be mistaken with the forest. There are no cannibals here, although they would have made great cannon fodder, because it's time for the final showdown. And these levels are also a little bit longer than the other worlds, which I do really enjoy. However, it is just stress simulator, just really hoping that you don't have to restart. God, I love roguelikes. Crikey and I formed a great strategy. He became a glass cannon that just did ludicrous amounts of damage, and I will just dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge while doing a small amount of damage, but I will do literally anything I can to res Crikey. I didn't perish once throughout this run, so I guess I can dodge a wrench. Not that I would want to, though. Wrench, my beloved.
You've got a weird relationship with technology.
Anyways, the forest. Once you make your way out, there's this colossal boss. We were pretty overwhelmed looking at it. After all, it was getting late, and this was going to be our last attempt at completing the game for this night. Unlike a certain attack on Magnus, which neither of us could actually fathom how to avoid, this massive dude was fairly straightforward. However, doing enough damage to all of its weak spots in the right order was a little bit more tricky. I do like that you actually have to start by taking its legs apart and then slowly peeling away all of its layers. It was all ogre for the boss, after we realised it was just a big onion. I liked how you get to finish this huge, oversized monster in the middle of a suburban town without anyone coming out of the houses to look at it, and without any police or, government workers getting involved. Of course, the real people who can actually help are just 2 children with lasers. And being able to fart into the sky! Wow! I also want to end this section by talking a little bit about the developers behind this game. As I've already mentioned, the game only has 2 developers. They're actually 2 friends who have known each other for over 25 years, which is absolutely wild to me as somebody who hasn't even been alive for 25 years. So one reason why I love making videos on indie games is because I tend to be able to ask them questions. In my last video, Cookie Cutter, I was able to contact the developers and ask about things like a future DLC. With the Black Pool, I first asked about the art. I'm a huge art nerd, but also this game was only made by 2 people and it looks this good. So I had a few questions, mainly if all the assets were made by them, because objects like this huge skull look incredible. This whole area is very alien. But the art is genuinely all by them, with the exception of some Megascan assets here and there. But even then, they've all actually been retextured so their game looks unique. There's also nothing wrong with using Megascan assets. I'm fairly confident Palworld's environment is made up mostly of Megascans, but in the case of the Black Pool, I think if they hadn't changed it, it would have taken away from the whole vibe and atmosphere they have created. The 2 developers are Matt and Mike. The two developers are Mike and Matt, with Mike being a game designer, programmer, technical artist, enemy designer, and level creator. Matt worked on the game design, art direction, environment design, level creation, audio, story, and UX. The amount of commitment and jobs indie devs take on is insane. You know, it's just another reason to support them, really. So this game has been in development as of March 2022. So this has been made in the span of 2 years, and the game's still in early access as well, so I really can't wait to see what they add in the future. Of course, I had to ask about their inspirations, and they said, quote, "From an aesthetic and story standpoint, Ford and I were born in the 80s and loved the kids in a dangerous adventure trope. The success of Stranger Things really helped bring that feeling that was pioneered by Goonies, E.T., and others. In addition, we are drawing inspiration from movies that have a strong retro view of the future. Alien, Blade Runner, Terminator. Inspiration from a game standpoint, we wanted to have fluidity and reward for skill from games such as Quake 3. We've been playing co-op games together forever, so we wanted to ensure that this was a highlight of the game. And the roguelike genre is one that we have loved even before it had that name. Highly replayable games you could just hop in for an hour and just yield very unique or different experiences. Finally, I had to ask about the enemy design, since they all just look so bizarre. A friend of mine said that one of the enemies actually reminded them of something from The Incredibles, whereas I found one of the bosses reminded me of the end boss from Horizon Zero Dawn. The dev said, quote, "The design for the enemies is rooted heavily in that retro vision of the future. Shiny, big, glowing neon lights. Also, I model and animate all of the enemies. Unlike Ford, I'm the programmer first, and I'm moonlighting as a part-time artist, so sticking to something more mechanical rather than organic in nature is something I can pull off better. Playing to your strengths is a solid choice, and it's obviously worked well here. I genuinely love the enemies. Anything robotic, I'm all over that. Even if they did make the Boston Dynamic robot charge into me face first." The art in this game is very high quality. The enemies all look so unique and interesting. I love how some enemies you can just look at and they just dissolve, whereas others, they have specific weak points you need to target, and others are just invincible until you defeat certain enemies. It really helps give variety to keep the combat more interesting and fresh. Each area looks so different from one another. It stops the game from looking stale. Alongside this, each boss is so clearly different, with their attacks being so varied. Some of them you need to have a more close range, and some of them you're better off being right in their face with your build. So you end up going between all sorts of different powers and just hoping that you've picked the right one. The VFX are beautiful. I know I went off script about this. However, they're just straight up gorgeous. I genuinely don't know how to put it into words. The music in this game is brilliant. It really helps tie it all together, and provided YouTube doesn't hate me for using it, I will have been using it in the background of this whole video. Finally, the movement in this game, it's just so fun. I love throwing myself around with a lightning grapple rod, or dashing through the air like Fetch, but with less neon. Or, you know, just straight up farting myself into the sky. The only way I can describe the movement is fluid. It is fantastic. To be honest, this is always my least favourite part of the video. I found 3 major issues throughout this game. The first being, unless the player is always moving towards the end point of the level, all of the enemies will sort of just spawn around you, which isn't an issue until you've dealt with them, and then you're sort of awkwardly forced to do a walk of shame until the end of the level. The worst part is, normally the music stops playing too, so it's just silence until you leave. Kind of awkward. The next is the map design. Most of the worlds are completely fine, however some, such as Obsidian or Shattered Crater, have some crevices which you can easily fall into and get stuck, or even worse, you can fall off the map if you go into them with a little bit too much momentum. This wouldn't be an issue as well if I could respawn, but I found that the respawn button never wanted to work properly. Finally, the balancing in this game is easily the worst part, since it does affect the core gameplay. Some abilities such as the lightning are really well done, but then the heavy attack actually does less damage than the quick attack, which makes no sense to me. Another is the earth ability. The boulder is almost impossible to hit anything, and even if an enemy is in your face, you still might miss due to it being so heavy. It doesn't seem to cause any actual damage either. But then the wind power is absolutely fantastic. Maybe even overpowered, since you can just sort of spam it out a little bit. But then, again, something like the fire ability, it just feels like the budget version of the ice ability. They're very similar, apart from it feels like it's got so much less damage. It almost feels like you're hitting the enemies with a Nerf dart. I just feel like some abilities have a little too much damage tied to them, and for some, the cooldown is far too long for the little damage that you're able to inflict. I'll also add there might be a certain way for, getting abilities to synergize better with one another, as there is actually an achievement for getting over 9,000 damage in a single attack, but I straight up couldn't do more than about 200, maybe 300-ish in the majority of my runs, whereas Crikey was actually able to do about 10 times that, but still not close to 9,000, so maybe the tutorial might need to be fleshed out a little more. This game was a really fun roguelike shooter. If you love that sort of genre, I would really suggest playing this game and supporting the indie devs. I also really hope that the developers continue to work on this more and are able to balance the abilities out a little better. I also want to just say a huge thank you to the developers for not only giving me a key to the game, but also my friend Crikey as well, just so we could play the game in co-op mode. It meant a hell of a lot. And developers, if you are watching this and got all the way here, I just want to say, your game is fantastic. Everything here is absolutely brilliant. I just feel like it needs a little more polishing. It is honestly brilliant so far. And I really hope that you're proud of yourselves for what you've achieved. It is bloody good. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. What did you think to this game? What abilities do you like the most? Do you want more content like this? Because I'm kind of itching to do a little bit more horror stuff. Let me know in the comments. And speaking of comments, please leave a lightning emote if you got all the way here. It means a lot to know that someone's been able to sit through me waffling on for however long this video was. Take care, and maybe I'll see you next time. Bye! Where was I? Ronald Weasley. How dare you steal that car? Ronald Weasley! How dare you steal that car? Bruh, I've been at work all day. How do I have so much energy? I swear to God.